Apple is considered a overpriced, scummy company whose users are all brain-dead idiots. I do not agree nor disagree with this statement. I personally use a mix of Linux and Windows computers, and the only Apple device I have are vintage ones. But something I see often from PC gamers or Apple haters is that sometimes they leave out facts or do not seem to understand some aspects. Because I like facts and do not like people being misinformed, here I present, in defense of Apple. I'm not going to justify the price of the hardware, but I'm going to argue some points I hear about it. For my argument, I'm going to use Apple's MacBook with the Core i5 to talk about. The main thing I hear about is that the MacBook's processor is a dual-core processor at 1.3 GHz. My phone has a quad-core processor at 1.8 GHz. First of all, it is a dual-core 4-threaded processor, so it basically acts as a quad-core. Second of all, saying that the CPU runs at 1.3 GHz is misleading. The CPU is capable of turbing up to 3.2 GHz. The reason Apple underclocked the CPU so much is simple: power. Because you're not going to be doing video editing 24/7, you don't need the processor to be running at 3.2 GHz all the time. You probably will mostly be running YouTube or Twitter. Because of this, the processor is being underused, so running at 3.2 GHz is redundant and just wastes power. The CPU will boost up to its full potential when video editing, but when not doing it, it will run at 1.3 GHz to save power so the MacBook can get a full 10-hour battery life. Also, your phone's CPU is probably ARM-based, which is different than an x86 CPU, and the ARM CPU in your phone has nowhere near the power of a 7th generation i5 CPU. ARM is also similar to the PowerPC architecture, which coincidentally is what old Apple laptops from 1998 to 2005 used. So your phone's CPU has a processor similar to one from 2005, and you're comparing that to a 7th generation i5. Another thing people criticize Apple for is their use of LPDDR3 RAM, but people who say this don't seem to know the difference between DDR3 and DDR4. The difference is simple. The millions of transfers per second that the RAM can do, or MTS, is the difference. DDR3 starts at 800 MTS, or megahertz as we refer to it, and goes all the way up to 2133 megahertz. DDR4 starts at 2133 megahertz and goes up. When they say it uses DDR3 RAM, it really just means that the RAM is under 2133 megahertz. And because video editing is more CPU and graphics card bound, the 1866 MTS RAM really isn't that big of a factor, and faster RAM is shown to have little improvement when you increase speeds, as long as it is faster than DDR2 speeds. As for the LP port, all that means is that RAM has been tweaked to run on a lower voltage to help battery life. The price is way too large for what you get. I'm not going to deny that fact, but I am going to make some points against it that may show that buying Apple products may actually be cheaper in the long run. For starters, I'm going to talk about the iMac Pro. When Linus Tech Tips did their video on the iMac Pro, they found that building a similarly spec'd computer actually costs $200 more than the Mac counterpart. Although I can't say much about how Apple products only cost new except for the iMac Pro with them being cheaper, I can say something about how it resells. Say the year is 2008. You're going to either buy a Dell Latitude D630 or MacBook Air. Both have 2 GB of RAM and similar enough processor speeds. The Latitude costs $1,913, while the MacBook costs $1,799. So already the MacBook is cheaper. Zip back to 2018 and you decide to sell your old laptop, and you can fetch all of $79 for your Latitude, or $300 for your MacBook. $1,799 minus $300 is $1,499, so that will have been the total price of the MacBook once you subtract the resale. $1,913 minus $79 is $1,834. So not only was the MacBook cheaper in the long run, it had better battery life, and it was cheaper in the long run and short run. Now you may think, but that was when Steve worked there and stuff was cheaper. Well, okay, let's do a more recent example. Say it was 2013, a year not that long ago, and you're going to buy a laptop, either a Dell or an Apple. The Dell is a M4 700 at $2,162, 16 GB of RAM, SSD, and a 3rd Gen i7, or a MacBook Pro at $2,599, with 16 GB of RAM, an SSD, and a 3rd Gen i7. That Dell refurbished now sells for $400. The refurbished MacBook now sells for $1,400 on eBay. 2,599 minus 1,400 is 1,199, or 2,162 minus 400 is 1,762. My point is not that Apple prices are cheap from the start. It's that in the short term they are expensive, but in the long term, Apple products can be actually cheaper once you resell them. So you could save $1,000 in the long run if you spend an extra $437 upfront. These are reasons why I think Apple is often portrayed wrongly and why I think they should be defended. Apple products are often criticized for their specs, but people don't seem to fully understand what the specs are, and even though they're overpriced in the long run, in the short run, not the long run, they're underpriced in the long run where you would have actually saved money had you bought the Apple product.